Have you ever found yourself overreacting to every little thing that a man does to you? Isn't it so frustrating when you feel powerless to the fact that when you're going crazy, you can't even hold it back anymore? Well, what if I told you that emotional control is not only amazing to have for yourself, but it's one of the most attractive qualities that you can possibly possess in a man's eyes? Which is why on today's show, we're going to be discussing how to have emotional control so men fall in love with you. That way you can stop going crazy on the men you're with and finally start attracting men who are crazy for you instead. For point number one, we're going to discuss texting. Now, I know we're talking about emotional control, so you're probably asking, what does texting in the phone have to do with emotional control? See, we're in 2025, and one of the easiest ways to lose your grip on your emotions is to text them. Because as you're texting them, what's simultaneously happening is you're losing your ability to directly communicate to that guy. Because each time that you guys are texting back and forth, there's what I can describe as a decode process here. The reason I call it a decode process is because you're never going to read a text the exact way that that person may have intended to send that text, because you have your own experiences, your own ideologies, your own things that you're going through in this current moment, and your own emotions. And all of those things are going to be the filter through which that text comes through, and then you decipher what all of that is supposed to mean in your own mind. And then when you receive that, you decide how you're going to respond to that based on what you then decoded. But here's the problem with that, is through text, you're void of a lot of context. So what can happen is the guy that's sending you a text message back might be sending you something with particular intention, with particular context, with a particular voice in his own head and his own mind of how he's delivering that message. And then by the time he delivers it to you, you receive it and you're like, no, this means something totally different. So how does this become a problem, and how does this relate to emotional control? Because anytime that you're finding yourself in a situation where something a guy says has bothered you or upset you, like let's say for the sake of example, you guys were in an argument and he said something really disrespectful towards you. The last thing you want to do is to be on the phone texting him. If at the very least you want to have a conversation with him and address him directly, the least thing you can do if you're going to address a man directly about how you feel or how something he did or said made you feel, get on a phone call. You get yourself on a phone call and address that man directly if he needs addressing. Not every time it's going to be address the man directly. Sometimes it'll be silence. But in the scenarios in which you need to address him directly and tell him how you feel, you get on a phone call, because at the very least on a phone call, you'll be having the context of his voice, hearing how it's shaking or hearing how it's confident, being able to also express yourself in words without just thinking about how to shrink them down or not type certain things because it's going to take you too long to express that certain thing. It's a much better way to go about a conversation and come to an understanding. I can't tell you how many times that texting someone that I was in a relationship or a situationship with has actually made things a lot worse. And for those of you who have never been on opposite sides of that, on both of the extremes, you might not realize how much this is sabotaging your relationship. I'm telling you this from my own experience. You can get into a fight with a man simply because you're texting about the issue as opposed to getting on the phone and talking about the issue. I'm telling you, it's happened to me so many times, it's painful. So there's a certain point where as you become more skilled with this and become more aware of this and how this kind of can sabotage things and make things horrible, if you let it, as soon as you feel yourself, oh, I'm doing a lot of typing now. For example, you go out with your girlfriends and now you're having an argument with your man, and you can feel yourself now, you're not even paying attention to what you're doing at this dinner that you're supposed to be with your girls, and you're just typing. You're so angrily typing like you can't see anything else happening. You have tunnel vision on this phone. As soon as you feel yourself in that state, or you feel yourself getting into that state, you immediately say, oh, no, I got to put the phone down. And if I'm going to talk to him, I need to call him so that we can have a conversation. If neither of us are available to have a conversation at this point, then I need to just let it go and wait until I can have a conversation. Even if that means I simply text him and tell him, look, I can't text about this right now. If you want to talk about this, we can talk on on the phone. If not, that's perfectly fine, but I can't be here just continuing to text you back and forth. This is super duper important because I promise you, when you're texting like this, emotions, it's so easy for them to spill over, and it's so easy for you to lose control of the narrative and what you were trying to do and even what you were trying to address, especially when you're going back and forth with someone over text. For point number 2, we're going to discuss timing, because in order for you to properly be able to have emotional control, we need to make sure that we address how emotions and timing will play a role in how you feel at any individual moment. Let's kind of dive a little bit deeper. So anytime someone upsets you, specifically the guy that you're talking to, the time where your emotions are going to be the most heightened is right here. And the reason I'm drawing this like this, for those of you who might not be as mathematically inclined, the way that this graph is working is essentially this is the peak of your emotion right here. This is the peak of your intensity of emotion. When you're the most riled up, when you're the most angry, when you're ready to say the most horrible and wildest things on earth, right when that person immediately upsets you and you're feeling all of those feelings like a wave. Then as time goes on, there is a drop off, and slowly but surely, gradually, those feelings that were once extremely intense and once felt like an uncontrollable wave of emotion eventually becomes something that is a lot more manageable and feels a lot less overwhelming. So the reason we're discussing timing is because when you get into a situation where a guy triggers you, where he's doing something to upset you, or you know he's trying to push your buttons, the worst thing you can do is try and respond right away. And this is an easy mistake to make. See, just like we talked about with the phone and the texting, they kind of all work hand to hand. Texting is an easy way to respond to someone right then and there. But if we just think about timing, that's the worst time you should be responding to someone, because that's the time where you're the most emotionally overwhelmed, right at the beginning of when they have upset you or said something to make you mad. What we want to practice in your relationships especially is allowing yourself time to be able to process your emotions, but also allowing those emotions to not be as intense. And trust me, it's okay to give yourself some time. Here's a mistake that some people might make when they get into a relationship. You might have a guy that you're talking to that wants you or encourages you to respond right away, or encourages you to speak your mind, but tell him how you feel right then and there. I promise you, listen to me, I'm telling you, I'm trying to help you. It is always a mistake, whether in your romantic relationships or even in your platonic relationships, to respond to people who have upset you or angered you or triggered you right in that moment. No matter what someone asks from you, this is the part of the show where I tell you guys don't really know what they want. No matter what a guy asks from you, no matter how much he tells you, respond to me right in that moment when you're the most upset, say anything you want, don't do it. Practice discipline in allowing yourself to say, I know right now I'm so peed off. I could say some things that would really hurt him and really hurt this relationship and really just make me look horrible because I'm about to crash out and do some crazy things. Do not let a guy encourage you to speak your mind in that moment. It will always be a mistake, because the moment you say things that are out of line, or the moment you go crazy, the moment you crash out, you're only going to be left with regret of how you handled the situation. And on top of that, you're not going to show him what we want to show him, which is that you have emotional control for yourself and also for him. It's not about not caring, and it's not about not speaking up for yourself, and it's also not about not communicating. It's about understanding, in order for me to properly communicate, I can't allow myself to respond to you right here. If I have to wait a couple of hours till I get to right here emotionally, then I'll wait. If I have to wait even like a day to get to right here emotionally, then I'll wait. But wherever I can be, in order to respond to you in a way that addresses you specifically on the issue at hand, without going out of line, without becoming too personal, without distracting from the point of what we're actually addressing here, that's how I'm gonna go about it. Because at the end of the day, when you address things at these points, one, it's gonna be easier on you. You're gonna come across way better in your communication. You're gonna be way clearer in your communication. And it also will allow the guy that you're talking to receive the things that are upsetting you a lot. Because I promise you, once you start getting personal and the attacks are coming from this place and that place, and you're talking about things unrelated, you're not even going to get across the type of clear and open communication that you're hoping to get. For point number 3, we're going to discuss outlets, specifically your emotional outlets, because life is going to happen to all of us. So we're all going to go through our own fair share of situations. And the reason I kind of drew this like this is because the situations are happening and you're feeling feeling them and you're experiencing them. And what we want to do is we want to create a space and an environment for you that as things are happening to you, because we'll be honest here, some of these situations are going to cause you stress, some are going to make you sad, and some are just going to, be good, both good, and some of them will be not so good. But in the process of this, we need to be able to help you deal with those things. So these outlets here, or imagine them as like as pressure is coming in, we need to have a way to relieve pressure outward. Now, as it relates to you and the guy that you're dating, what I don't want is I don't want the guy to be your only version of an outlet. What we want to start doing if we want to help you get emotional control is we want to create an environment where you can have outlets that you can go to whenever that guy triggers you or whenever that guy upsets you. So for example, it doesn't have to be something very huge, by the way. Let's say a guy cancels a date on you. You guys were supposed to go out and eat sushi together. And now he's calling you last minute and telling you, hey, by the way, we can't go out to eat sushi because I have a work thing. You're really upset now. You really want to crash out now. You really want to be a textaholic and text him how you feel and send him a nice big long paragraph of Harry Potter book. But what you're not going to do is that. And instead, what you're going to do is you're going to take yourself a nice long bubble bath because you love the smell of lavender and you love getting into that nice warm tub and feeling those warm bubbles on your skin and smelling that lavender and having your candles around you. Now, I know in that moment, that wasn't the thing that you planned or intended on doing at that current time because you wanted to spend that night going out with your guy and it's an emotional pivot where you're not doing what you anticipated you would be doing. But creating outlets for yourself and also understanding what your outlets are is a great thing to have in your life that anytime a guy either disappoints you or upsets you or triggers you, you can always have that ready to go for yourself and not allow yourself to crash out on him, to go crazy on him, to start texting him everything that you feel and all of those things. So whatever that is for you, this outlet can be that for you. It doesn't have to be the bubble bath. Here's the only thing I'll say. We don't want your outlet to only be a friend because here's the mistake. Or even friends. Here's the mistake that can happen if you make it only a friend as your outlet, okay? Your friends, even though they love you and care about you and want to help you, they have their own lives as well. So what will happen is, as time goes on, you have different situations, stresses, things going on with the guy that you're dating or the guys that you end up dating. Not every time that you need an outlet will one of these friends necessarily be available. So what I don't want is I don't want you to have to turn to an outlet in order to avoid crashing out. And then you call that friend that usually answers the phone whenever you're ready to crash out. And let's say she's out with her family and then she can't answer the phone this time. Because then now what are you going to do? This was your one and only outlet. And now this friend that's supposed to be your outlet is unavailable. That friend is allowed to have her own priorities as well. So we have to anticipate with humans, relying on a human, especially for something as important as your emotional outlet, can be a little bit irresponsible on your part. Your outlet should be something you can go to at any time 24/7. I'm not saying they can't also be friends, but we don't want them to only be friends. That way, if that friend or those friends are unavailable at that time, you always have another option of an outlet. For point number 4, we're going to discuss things being personal. This is easier said than done, but what has to happen in order for you to be able to have better emotional control? You have to stop taking things so personal. Whenever people are disappointing you or whenever people aren't acting as you would want them to act, specifically the man that you're dating, it's very easy to kind of like say, oh, well, this is all about me. He flopped on the date because he's not attracted to me. He's not talking to me anymore because he's just not interested in me. Oh my gosh, he must have done this thing or said this thing because of me or something I did or something I said. You're taking a lot of his actions personally. What should be happening though is you have to start looking at situations and problems and even issues as a third party. That's why I drew this triangle here, because not everything that a man does that upsets you or disappoints you really even has to do with you. And I know it kind of sounds weird when I'm saying that because you can feel like it always has to do with you, but not necessarily. Sometimes the issue at hand or whatever it is you're observing from that man that's upsetting you is really honestly just between the man and the issue. And it's unrelated totally to what's going on with you or anything that you've done. And sometimes just understanding that this action that he's doing to hurt me or disappoint me isn't even really about me can help you understand that I don't have to take this situation so personal and respond to it in a way where it feels like an attack on me. Let me give you an example of that. For example, the guy that flops on you on the date, that you guys were supposed to go out on Friday and it was all planned, all ready to go. You got your hair, you got your makeup done, you got your dress on, you're looking amazing. And then he calls you up an hour before and tells you that now he has a work thing. It's very easy to take that personal of, oh, this guy doesn't want me. Oh, this guy doesn't think I'm attractive. Oh, he's not taking me serious. Oh, this is so horrible. Oh, this looks bad on me. But you have to also understand, well, maybe there's also a possibility that he's actually dealing with his own situation, especially when you first start dating someone. He might have his own stresses, his own problems, his own issues, that even though he wanted to come on this date with me, even though he wanted to enjoy this time with me, he couldn't because of whatever it is that he's dealing with. And also understanding that, especially when you first begin dating someone, and even when you've been dating someone, you don't always know exactly everything that's happening in that moment. Think to yourself, how many times have you been in a situation where someone did something to you or said something to you, and in that moment you thought, oh my gosh, this person hates me, this person dislikes me, this person, whatever the case may be. And then it wasn't until after the fact, like maybe a week later, when they filled you in on everything that was going on at the time that they did that thing that hurt you, you then realized, oh wow, that actually had nothing to do with me. In fact, your reaction was literally directly related to whatever it is that you were going through. And it just happened that at that time, we were talking and having a conversation and you responded that way, not because of what you felt for me, but what you felt for the situation all the way over here. And you have to remember that going through that experience, sometimes that can also be happening to you currently when you're experiencing a situation with a man that you're with and you're experiencing some of the hurt or some of the things that were triggering you of what he said or did to you. Now, this is not about saying that you should not care. These things should not make you upset. These things shouldn't make you sad or mad. But it's also about giving yourself a chance to say, maybe this isn't all about me. Maybe this isn't all a reflection on me, that I don't have to take this situation so personal and get so hurt by what he's doing, and give myself and him some time to really see what's actually going on. And maybe if I give myself a couple of days to see if this issue really even had anything to do with me or if it was an issue totally unrelated to me, then once I get those answers, I'll be more clear on exactly what was going on here. For point number 5, we're going to talk about pressure. Now, I'll have an honest conversation with all of you from a man's perspective, because this has happened to me multiple times before, and I'll tell you how it made me feel and what I know a lot of men feel when they're in this situation. Sometimes you can get to a place in your relationship as a man where you start to feel a lot of pressure to not upset the woman that you're with by not including her in everything that you're doing. Here's the problem. When you start getting into this place as a man mentally, rather than bringing your woman along because you really want her to be there, you really want to spend time with her, and you really want to see her, you end up bringing her along with you because you feel pity for the fact that if you don't bring her along, she'll be upset, she'll have nothing to do, she'll have nowhere to go, she'll feel like you hate her. And as a man, we don't like that. And if we're anticipating that, we might bring you along, not necessarily because we want you there, but because we don't want you to feel like, oh, it's a slap in the face if I don't invite you. Let me give you an example of that. If I'm supposed to go out for a dinner with my guy friends, and that's just something that we do, we like to go watch the game, and maybe me and you haven't hung out in a couple of days or whatever the case may be, and I let you know that I'm going to hang out with my friends and go out to eat and watch the basketball game. And you, as a woman, because you're taking things very personal and you're losing some of that emotional control and not practicing the things that we talked about, like taking some time and not texting, and you're texting exactly how you feel and what you think in the moment that you just hear the thing, you start to say, well, why are you going out with these guys and you never invited me? So you were just never gonna tell me? Do you not want me to be there? Do you not like hanging out with me? You're trying to hang out with your boys and you don't invite me. How am I supposed to feel about that? And see, after a while, that creates a lot of psychological pressure on the guy that you're dating, because he'll start to feel like, well, if I don't invite her, she's going to be upset at me. If I don't include her in whatever it is I'm doing, whether I'm doing something with my family, whether I'm doing something with my guy friends, whoever, then she's going to be mad at me. It's going to be a problem. She's going to go crazy on me. And you're starting to train your man that instead of inviting you out or being around you for the fact that he wants you around, he starts to invite you out and be around you for the fact that he feels pity for how you'll go crazy and be upset that he doesn't invite you out. And so all of this creates a lot of psychological pressure on him that he needs to be the source of your happiness. He needs to spend a lot of time with you. He needs to only focus on you and never do anything for just himself. Some guys will try and do this, but even when they try and do this, it'll create an imbalance in a situation that you don't want, because you don't want your man being around you because he feels pity for you. You don't want your man spending time with you because he feels bad about how upset you'll be if he doesn't spend time with you and chooses to do that somewhere else or with someone else. We don't want that dynamic to get set in your relationships or ever get established in your relationships where that amount of pressure is on him to only think about you and only focus on you and only spend time with you. And if he dares to spend time with someone else, then it's a crime. For point number 6, I want you to define things. Specifically, I want you to define for yourself who you are. Now, the reason I'm saying this, one of the mistakes that's easy to make when you stop having a lot of emotional control is that you don't have an understanding of who you are and what you're about. The problem with this is then a man comes into your life, and whether or not he likes you kind of determines for yourself whether or not you feel like you have value. So I drew out here, he shows that he likes you, makes you feel like he likes you. You can confirm that he likes you through his actions, that he's showing that he likes you. Now you feel like my value is up. But then if there's a scenario in which he's not showing that he likes you, then all of a sudden your value in yourself goes down. Now, what does this have to do with emotional control? The problem with this dynamic is that now you're gonna feel very, very, very offended at any sort of sign that he makes you feel like maybe he doesn't like you as much. Maybe he's not completely obsessed with you. Maybe he's not completely in love with you. And this is the issue. See, the beginning of the relationship, you're gonna feel a lot of these signs of him liking you. You're gonna feel like he's really into you. You're gonna feel his focus. But as the relationship goes on and you spend more and more and more days together, it's not possibly going to feel as intense and as focused as it once did. Not that he should be love bombing you or anything like that, but as you spend more time with someone, you're not going to feel like they're so completely obsessed with you. They just want to breathe you in every second of the day. It's impossible to be on that level of intensity. But the problem with that is now as you're contrasting that with what you felt before, or the other times where you felt like he really, 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 really likes you, you're now completely up, or now in this case that you're not feeling that, you're completely down. And this will cause the anxiety to go up and down and be like a roller coaster. And this will be part of the things that cause you to crash out and go crazy on men. The reason I want you to define for yourself who you are before you ever get into a relationship is because I want you to get into that relationship understanding what your value is, understanding what you bring to the table, as everyone says, understanding what you're about and who you are at your core and your essence, what your character is. That way, a man showing you that he likes you is not necessarily taking you over the moon in terms of what you think your value is. And a man not showing you that he likes you as much, or maybe being aloof or not showing as much interest, doesn't take you down in the dumps, because all of this will affect your own emotions and it'll hit you like a wave when you start feeling like he's in control of your own view of yourself. Once you start feeling like he's in control of your own view for yourself, everything he does to you will become offensive. Everything, the way he looks at you will feel personal and offensive. The simple word he says to you, even the tone, if this is the thing, this is how sensitive you'll become if this is how the things are happening. Even when he sends you a text and he texts you without an emoji, okay? He doesn't use emojis in his text. Now you're offended. You don't like me anymore because you're not using emojis. And this is how it'll spiral out of control. And you'll start to overreact to every little thing. Because in your mind, every little thing that he's doing and responding and saying to you is a reflection of whether he likes you today or whether he doesn't like you today. And when that is so closely tied to what you think about yourself, now you're on a roller coaster. So what we need to do is we need to completely detach this of whether he likes you or not from what you feel your value is. So we need to say that for yourself, you are of the belief that you are valuable and have value, and you know what your value is, whether he shows you that he likes you in what he's doing or whether he doesn't. And so this understanding has to flow through you from the very beginning of when you start meeting and dating a guy. For point number 8, we're going to discuss the root. Now, specifically, we're talking about getting to the root of the problem. One of the easiest things to do whenever you're struggling, having emotional control, is to allow your conversations with the person that you're upset with to become about everything except what you're actually upset about. What I mean by that, I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. Let's say you're having a disagreement with a guy. And in the process of this disagreement, let's say you guys are talking about the fact that he has canceled this date on you. And so he's canceled this date on you and it's really upset you, but you're not really upset about the fact that he's canceled this date. You're really and truthfully upset about the fact that you feel like he hasn't actually been taking the process of dating very seriously, in the sense that he hasn't been prioritizing, or I should say planning and scheduling his time and his schedule in a way that would actually allow you guys to successfully date each other. For example, he knows that his work meetings go extra long on Fridays, but he's planning a sushi date with you an hour after he's supposed to finish work or he's supposed to be done work, knowing that his meetings regularly go overtime. So now you're a little bit frustrated because every time you guys are supposed to plan something, work comes up and it's actually work, but the problem is he should be planning or understanding how to manage his time in a way that allows him to work and then also go out with you. So that's really the root of the problem. Now, this is where the emotional control comes in. Let's say in the process of you trying to address this or wanting to address this, he says, like whatever. The one time when I texted you and I called you, you never even answer my calls or text anyways. Like when I really need you, you're never even there for me. And then this takes you off your path because now you, in the process of him kind of attacking you and you feel like this is a personal attack on me, you start to feel like, well, I need to give you another personal attack back, or I need to address what you said and start defending myself, even though, let's say, for example, in that scenario, you guys have already discussed that situation that he's referring to. You guys have already come to a resolution and solution on that situation that he's referring to. But this is the problem. See, when you don't have emotional control, people are able to control you and take you into the deep end or into the trenches and get you to forget about addressing the root of your problem. Having emotional control is also about understanding how to stay focused on addressing whatever it is that you are actually trying to address and not getting fooled into starting to operate up here, which is the reaction kind of portion of a problem, and getting distracted and blowing with the wind. The reason I drew this as a tree is because the roots can't just be blown away with the wind. The roots are here. They don't disappear no matter what the season, no matter what's going on with the weather, no matter what's going on outside, the roots are still gonna be there. But the leaves on the tree are kind of like the reaction because they can be blown away willy-nilly and they can be taken any which way that they want. If you're operating up here in the reaction portion of the tree, you can be swayed or persuaded or moved in any one direction. The problem with that is you're not having emotional control if you're operating up here in reaction. Because once I attack your character, once I say something about a past situation, you're gonna forget everything that you wanted to discuss as it relates to the root of the problem, and you're gonna start discussing something totally unrelated. So for people that like to escape accountability, this is a great strategy to use, because by the time you start addressing the thing that actually I should be taking accountability for, we can just play up here and you'll just be reacting to all the things that I use to attack you. For point number 9, very important, you want to make sure that you are practicing finding your truth in any situation or issue or problem that you'll have with a guy. Part of having emotional control is also not allowing people to convince you of something that you never felt in the first place. Let me give you an example of that. Let's say you're in an argument with a guy and he says something really disrespectful to you. He calls you the B word and he says you're good for nothing, you're useless, B word. And that really upsets you, that bothers you, and a whole fight goes out from just that. You might have a conversation with him after a couple of days and bring him this truth. Hey, I feel hurt by what you said and what you did at the time when you were upset with me, and it hurt me because because I don't like being called this. It's disrespectful. You're putting me down, and whatever it is that you're feeling. It's very important that whenever you're going into addressing a situation with someone, that you come with that truth ready of how that action or thing that that person said or did made you feel. And the reason I'm saying come with that truth is this is what narcissists will do. This is also just what people who are good at emotional manipulation will do. If you don't come to them with that truth in your hand, meaning you don't come to them having already understood how did what you say or did affect me and make me feel, and you just come to them without that understanding and just having a conversation without yet thinking about that or how that affected you, that person will then instead, this is what really good emotional manipulators do, they bring that truth to you and they tell you this situation that happened between both of us, this is how that situation should have made you feel because this was my intention. This is what I was going through at the time. This is why I said it. So whatever you thought you were going to feel, whatever you imagined you would be feeling, that's not how you should be feeling. This is the truth of how you should be feeling. And I'm bringing that to you now. Here's the problem with that. If you're someone who is not understanding or a little bit more emotionally immature because you just don't have the experience, you might not realize what is happening here. What's happening here is that person is, because you didn't come with your understanding of what is my truth, what do I feel, and honestly, void of whatever someone else will say or think or what anyone else's perception is. What do I think and feel about what just transpired? And then addressing the situation based on what your own authentic feelings are. What will happen is if you don't have that ready for yourself, someone who is a little bit more emotionally sharp than you and emotionally more manipulative than you will say, no, I'm going to tell you how you're supposed to feel based on what happened. So when I called you the B word, you don't need to feel disrespected by that. In fact, you should realize that that was just an expression of my love for you. That was just an expression of my passion. So don't worry about bringing no truth about feeling hurt about the way that I disrespected you or what I said at the time. Just worry about the fact that I'm super intense and I'm super passionate and sometimes I say things that I don't mean. That is the truth that I want to sit with you. So this is why I say part of having emotional control is also understanding how to manage and box up and think about your truth. And then when you're addressing people, don't allow them to shake you off of that, because sometimes you'll meet people that when you address things directly to them, they'll try to shake you off of that and convince you that what you feel is not really what you feel. This is what you should feel instead. And that's very wrong, very bad. And it'll send you down a spiral because now you'll be confused about, wait, but that doesn't feel like what I'm supposed to be feeling. And should I be feeling that? And you'll start to battle with yourself about what is really the truth here. Is it what that person's saying? Am I wrong for feeling that way? And it'll send you down an emotional spiral. We don't need you there.